Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss about the topic respiratory problems of newborn. Congenital respiratory neonatal disorders are the conditions that may affect the neonatal period, including apnea, meconium aspiration, atelectasis, idiopathic respiratory distress syndrome, bronchopulmonary dysplasia. First, we can discuss about the apnea. When the cessation of respiration is more than prolonged, that associated with the periodic breathing, usually that is 10 to 20 seconds or longer, and is followed by color change and bradycardia, the condition is called apnea. It much more serious problem that may lead to hypoxia. That hypoxia means lack of oxygen. Cyanosis, that is due to the lack of oxygen, bluish discoloration of the skin came, that is cyanosis. Brain damage, so brain need a lot of oxygen, so when there is cyanosis and hypoxia, that may lead to brain damage and furtherly lead to death of the newborn. Bradycardia, that is below 80 to 100 beats per minute, that is known as bradycardia. Then appears 30 seconds after cessation of respiration. Almost all premature infants have periodic breathing, that is at 28 to 29 weeks of gestation. Apneic episodes may occur on any day after birth. It may occur repeatedly and most common in the smaller infants, that is preterm infants, especially during active or any moments of sleep. So that's apnea. It's the pathophysiology. Immaturity in function and control of respiratory center is probably primary cause of apnea. Immature infants may have apnea associated with respiratory distress syndrome. We can see the etiology: intracranial bleeding, physiological anemia, patent ductus arteriosus, pneumonia or sepsis, hypoglycemia, that is the glucose level is low, hypocalcemia, it is calcium level is decreased. These are the etiological factors for the apnea. Next we can see what are the nursing management. Continuous management, that is close monitoring of the baby should be done. Gentle sensory stimulation in order to initiate the baby. So if the baby is not breathing properly, we can give a sensory stimulation, gentle sensory stimulation. So that will initiate the breathing. This is we are doing like rubbing the back of the baby and stroking the face, chest, groin and legs. We can give a stroke in the legs or groins or chest or face. So that will stimulate the breathing. Then suctioning and resuscitation. If the apnea is due to any secretions, we have to do the suction. Then we can start the resuscitation steps. After the infant's color improves, an orogastric tube may be inserted to decompress the stomach. So color, if it is improved, there may be secretions in the stomach. So we have to introduce orogastric tube to decompress the stomach. If bradycardia continues, mechanical ventilation will be necessary. Then if apnea is the result of primary respiratory condition, it will respond well to treatment with the oxygen. So if we have to, after simulation, then suctioning, then if it is not improved, we can start the oxygen. So most of the babies will improve after the oxygen introduction. So oxygen may be given with the application of continuous positive airway pressure, that is with the CPAP. If ventilatory support become necessary, low pressure to avoid hyperventilation and respiratory acidosis. So if we are giving the ventilatory support, it is only given with low pressure. Otherwise hyperventilation and respiratory acidosis will be occur. Then apnea is severe enough to treat with if the apnea is severe, then we can treat with the medication such as theophylline is given intravenously. So what is the effect of theophylline? Theophylline improves the releasing bronchial smooth muscles, relaxing the bronchial smooth muscles. That is the effect of the theophylline. And this drug also may produce a cardiac excitation and diuresis. The nurse must be certain that all leads are securely attached to the infants and to the machine. That is the monitor. If the monitor is attached, or we should be careful that all the leads are attached properly. When apnea alarm sounds, the nurse must make an immediate effort to stimulate or resuscitate the infant. If the alarm sound occur, we can use the stimulation with the tapping the zone or rubbing the back, or resuscitation. If it is not improved, then resuscitation the infant. Then caffeine has also been found to improve the ventilation and to establish more regular breathing pattern through the CNS stimulation. So that's all about the apnea and its etiology and the nursing management. Hi students, now we can discuss about the meconium aspiration. So meconium usually aspirated due to the meconium is passed in the when the baby is in the uterus. So if the baby passed because of any fetal distress, baby will pass the meconium in the uterus. So if it is passed, the fluid will be contain meconium, or fluid is stained with the meconium. So the meconium stained amniotic fluid occurs in 5 to 10% of birth. It generally occurs in term or preterm newborn. So it occurs not only in term, it occurs in term and also in the preterm newborns who are immature or small for gestational age. So pathophysiology we can see. Meconium is passed in the amniotic fluid when the fetal distress and anoxia have occurred in the uterus. So in the uterus, when the baby is on the uterus, if a baby has fetal distress or anoxia, baby will pass the meconium. So the skin may be stained with meconium and the infant is depressed. So when the fluid is stained with meconium, so we can see by the baby's skin will be stained with meconium and baby may be depressed. During the gestation or with the first breath, thick meconium is aspirated into the lungs. So when the baby's first take breath, baby may aspirate the meconium which is in the nose into the lungs. So airway, what will happen if the meconium is aspirated? It will be obstructed the airway. So airway obstruction within few hours after the birth will occur. So that will lead to the respiratory distress, that is tachypnea, grunting, cyanosis. So resuscitate the infant, the baby have pneumothorax. An over expansion and rupture of the alveoli may be happen. Then if the overexpansion and rupture of the alveoli happen, that will lead to atelectasis. This is the meconium aspiration syndrome usually occurs. Then we can see the investigation, the radiology, over distension of the chest, flattening of the diaphragm can be seen in the radiological examination. In the nursing management, the meconium that has been aspirated is removed in the delivery room by suctioning the oral. If the baby has passed, if you feel that baby has passed the meconium in the uterus, so what we have to do, after the delivery, we have to do a proper suction. Then endotracheal tube also can be inserted. Then oxygen and sodium bicarbonate may be given to correct the cyanosis and acidosis. An infant's stomach may be suctioned in order to remove swallowed meconium and could be omitted and aspirated. And we can give a stomach wash also. So that's all about the meconium aspiration. Hi students, now we are going to discuss about the condition atelectasis. So lungs are collapsed in fetal life and the fetus receive oxygen through the maternal circulation. We already know when the baby is in the uterus, the lung is not working. only the baby get the oxygenation or the oxygen content blood from the maternal circulation. Then after birth, what will happen? After birth, with the infants, when they take first breath, the alveoli usually expand. So when they take first breath, lung normally expand, that is alveoli expand with air to their variable degree. After several days, full expansion usually occur. That is a normal phenomenon. So what is atelectasis? Imperfect expansion or collapse of the lung tissue that carries out child's death after birth, that is the atelectasis. So if the usually after the delivery, the lung expansion occurs when baby is first take breath. But if it is imperfect expansion or the collapse of the lung will if it happen, that causes baby's death, that is the atelectasis. So what is the pathophysiology? We can see the pathophysiology, the primary and the secondary. So alveoli, first we already saw, alveoli fails to expand, common in premature infant because of the immaturity of diaphragm and other respiratory muscles and hypermobility of the bones. It may also be due to over sedation of the mother before delivery or brain injury of the newborn. A mucus or meconium plug may cause the atelectasis. All infants are acidotic to some degree at birth, but in normal neonates, the acidosis generally corrects itself with the first 60 minutes of life. In neonates whose lungs do not expand normally, the acidosis becomes more severe, possibly with a pH value of below 7. That is primary cause. Next is secondary atelectasis. The alveoli collapse after they have been expanded. After it is expanded by the air, the secondary, that is a secondary means first it is normally expanded with the air first when baby cries, but later on it is collapsed, that is the secondary atelectasis. This may be occur when the infant or child has pulmonary disease or has aspirated mucus or a foreign body. So that is secondary atelectasis. We can see the assessment and signs and symptoms. So atelectasis, what will the first, it is evident when there is increased need of oxygen, poor respiratory effort, poor air exchange and persistent cyanosis. The respiration is irregular, rapid and shallow. Apgar score is low and infant may become hypotonic and flaccid. That is the first atelectasis can be seen. In the second primary, so there is a primary atelectasis. These are the evidence can be seen, that is the when there is increased need of oxygen, poor respiratory effort, poor air exchange and persistent cyanosis. The respiration is irregular, rapid and shallow, and Apgar score is low. Infant become hypotonic and flaccid. In secondary atelectasis, that is respiratory distress, cyanosis, rapid deep breathing with retraction and grunting can be seen. That is a signs and symptoms. So what are the investigation can be done? We have to take the proper history, that is we already studied in the newborn in the NICU how to what all the history should be taken. Then physical head to foot examination should be taken. Bronchoscopy can be done to check for any foreign body. Then radiology should be done to see about the condition of the legs. Next is the management, nursing, early recognition of the atelectasis. Clothing should not be tight around the neck and the chest, and position well, that is semi-fowler's position should be given, usually permits best expansion of the leg because abdominal contents do not press against the diaphragm. Then we can provide oxygen therapy. Suction and postural drainage may be used to reduce the amount of mucus in the respiratory tract. The increased humidity in the environment can prevent the drying of the secretions and the formation of the bronchial plugs. Then prevent secondary infection, prevent respiratory distress. That's about the atelectasis. Hi students, now we are going to discuss about the condition bronchopulmonary dysplasia, that is BPD. We can see the definition: a progressive chronic pulmonary condition. It is not suddenly, okay, this is a progressive and it becomes chronic and pulmonary, that is lungs condition characterized by pulmonary edema and a prolonged requirement of oxygen in infants who have been treated for respiratory distress syndrome. This is the bronchopulmonary dysplasia. So, what are the causes? Due to endotracheal intubation. So that we already who have pulmonary edema and who use the prolonged requirement of oxygen. We given any mechanical ventilation, that is a prolonged requirement of oxygen, that such infants have progressive chronic pulmonary, that is bronchopulmonary dysplasia. So due to endotracheal intubation, high concentration of oxygen, high positive pressure ventilation for prolonged period, then immaturity. These are the causes of bronchopulmonary dysplasia. Next is the pathophysiology. There are 4 pathological stages through which the infants have. That is, we already explained, it is a progressive condition. So there are 4 pathological stages through which infants have in BPD in progress. First is that is the mild stage 1. This stage clinically identical to IRD, idiopathic respiratory distress syndrome, and lasts for 2 to 3 days. During this time, there are profuse hyaline membrane, patchy mucosal cilia, and slight edema of the interstitium, but no necrosis of alveolar cells. So this is the first or mild stage. Second or moderate stage. This stage lasts for 4 to 10 days. During this stage, there are hyaline membrane present but extensive loss of cilia, some foci of atelectasis, small amount of eosinophilic exudate in the bronchioles, and widespread edema of the interstitium and necrosis of the alveolar cells are evident. So in this condition, necrosis we already explained. In the first stage there is no necrosis, but in the second stage what will happen? There is the necrosis of the alveolar are evident. In the third stage, that is severe, it is lasts from 10 to 20 days. Increase the necrosis of alveolar cells and bronchiolar mucosa will occur, and widespread alveolar collapse and increased interstitial fibrosis and hypertensive changes occur in the arterioles and arteries, and oxygenation is difficult. And final, fourth stage, that is advanced chronic stage, it is lasts for a month, and widespread necrosis, interstitial fibrosis, emphysema present, pulmonary failure, and cardiomegaly, and cor pulmonale is also present. This is the 4th stage occur in the bronchopulmonary dysplasia. So first is the mild stage, second moderate, third severe, and fourth is advanced or chronic stage. We can see how to assess. It is evident when there is increased need of oxygen and crepitant rales and diminished breathing sound, barrel-shaped chest appearance, emphysema, that is the abnormal presence of air in tissue or cavities of the body, oxygenation difficult, and carbon dioxide retention increase, and respiratory acidosis occurs. How to diagnose? We already explained about the history collection, physical examination, radiologic finding, blood investigation for oxygen tension and the acidosis. So what are the nursing management? How to provide proper oxygen therapy and other supportive measures. We already explained the respiratory distress there is the resuscitation measures and the ventilator support. Prevention of this condition is possible. It is seldom seen in infant receiving negative pressure ventilation without endotracheal intubation. The outcome is about 1/3 of affected infants die by 7 to 8 months of age. In those who survive after this time, normal cardiopulmonary function can be expected by 5 to 10 years. The child, however, may have recurrent pulmonary infection and preschool children may have limited tolerance to exercise. So that's all about the bronchopulmonary dysplasia. So thank you. Hi students. Now we are going to discuss about our topic pulmonary dysmaturity. It is known as Micki-Wilson syndrome. It is a disease of premature infant that may be confused with bronchopulmonary dysplasia. So we will be confused with is it bronchopulmonary dysplasia or pulmonary dysmaturity. Infant with the Micki-Wilson syndrome have birth weight between 1500 grams. After the first 7 days of life, they have an onset of mild respiratory symptoms including tachypnea, period of apnea and slight cyanosis. The temperature is generally not elevated and the blood count is in normal limit. There is reduced functional residual capacity and no vital capacity. The symptoms increases in severity for appropriate 4 to 8 weeks and gradually disappears over a period of weeks or months. Most infants with pulmonary dysmaturity will survive. So that's about the pulmonary dysmaturity. Next is idiopathic respiratory distress syndrome, IRDS. What is IRDS? It is an acute disorder that occurs almost exclusively in premature infants. It is usually affects in the premature infants. It may also develop in infants whose mother have diabetes or in infants delivered by cesarean section. It is diagnosed soon after the birth because of the obvious respiratory distress and can be expected to continue for 3 to 5 days. So we can see the pathophysiology. IRDS or idiopathic respiratory distress syndrome is caused by a deficiency in pulmonary surfactant activity. This deficiency is due to a lack of development of the lungs. It usually occurs within first 6 hours of life. Immature lungs have a deficiency of pulmonary surfactant and increased pulmonary vascular resistance. Infants may breathe without difficulty for a short time after birth, but the surfactant is decreased, the respiration becomes labored, that is labored or reduced. So, immature lungs of premature infants, that is increased pulmonary vascular resistance, causes decreased pulmonary blood flow and decreased lung metabolism. Also, we already told the immature lungs of premature infants have increased pulmonary vascular resistance and deficiency of pulmonary surfactant. So, due to the deficiency of pulmonary surfactant, decreased lung compliance and decreased alveolar ventilation. Due to decreased lung metabolism and decreased alveolar ventilation, there is a labored respiration will be occur. Next, assessment. Physical examination, that is tachypnea may be evident. Then lab test should be done. Radiography should be done. The nursing management include effective ventilation and O2 therapy, optimum environmental temperature, adequate nutrition should be given, acid-base balance should be maintained, normal BP and hematocrit should be maintained, and additional nursing management should be done according to the signs and symptoms. That's about the idiopathic respiratory distress syndrome.